transformed into another item, but. Be interesting to look at this.
All right, we have everybody back. We have a motion to reconvene. Support. City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Lanu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. So we are reconvening at 7:45 p.m. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar items, which include the May 17th regular session minutes, the May 25th study session minutes? Yep. Those. Oh, no, okay. And permit for fireworks, the permit for the Juneteenth celebration, and the emergency expenditure for the sewage pump repair.
So moved.
Support.
You can do it individually.
No, that is do I have any questions, comments? Nope, okay, City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Lanu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Reed, and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. All right, do I have the motion to approve the settlement agreement?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Lawler,
Yes.
Lanu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Motion to approve the medical marijuana grower license for Comco. Is Ian here to talk on this, or? Is there any other-
I think yes, but I believe, Mr. Arnold is here, but this is just a renewal, or approval of a medical marijuana grower license. It went for the planning commission at their, last regular meeting, so we were just recommending approval.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Support.
So we do have the documentation.
We can't discuss what's in the application.
No, but I was gonna say, let people know, the council people can see. Since there wasn't a purpose to second. We good? All right. City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Lanu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
No.
Lawler,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes.
Just a reminder, the council needs to be turned back into the clerk applications.
Motion to approve the resolution to set the 2021 tax levy.
So moved.
Support. Is Tommy with us to talk on this?
He is not our deputy clerk treasurer, Batch, should be running this activity. Jesse, is Pam with us in Zoom?
Yes, Pamela is there. Can you join us? Thanks, Pam.
Here. Go ahead, Pam, floor is yours.
Hi, I'm Pamela Beck. I am the deputy for Tom and Jill. And we have in front of you the tax for the 2021 summer. If you'll notice on page 3 after the resolution, you'll see the form. And this is the taxes that have been rolled back by the Headley Amendment. And that is the formula that the county uses to make sure that the taxes are in line with the inflation. So if we were ever wanting to go back up to the full mills, we would have to hold a truth and taxation hearing. So that could be considered for next year. As of this time, the revenue of the city doesn't really require that we go up to the full mills, and we'd rather tax the residents as we need it than overtax them.
Council questions for Pam? Okay, all right, City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Williamson.
Yes.
Yes. Reed.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Lawler.
Yes.
Lanu.
Yes.
And Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Thank you, Pam.
No problem.
Motion to approve the resolution for the heavy equipment abatement and the noxious vegetation.
So moved.
Support. Is Chief Kip gonna speak on this, or?
If you'd like me to.
Yes, floor is yours.
We only had one bid for this. We put it out on BidNet as we did last year. We changed it this year from a one-year bid to a 3-year contract. And so the bid is pretty much the same as it was last year for $60 an hour, with a 2% increase, I think, over the next 2 years, each year.
For reference, these contracts, this will allow us to address any of brush or large overgrown vegetation within the city. If the code enforcement comes out and issues a citation or if we have to clean up a property, this is, we utilize these contracts.
And this is John Hawkins, who's been doing it for years for us, so he's done a good job all the years, so.
Do we have any questions for Chief Kip? Yes, Councilman Reed.
Okay, so if there's a property in Albion that belongs to someone that lives out of Albion, and that property is deemed bad enough that the city says that it needs to be done, are they going to do it or not?
Yes, so our code enforcement officer, Nate, there's a process. So if we have a property who has overgrown vegetation or whatever, we do issue them a citation, give them a notice, say, hey, please address this issue. I can't off the top of my head how long in between when the second follow-up notice, if they still have not abated the issue, we then send them a final citation and then we schedule with our contractor vendor to come and abate that issue. What you all approved at, I believe it was our last May meeting, those abatements that roll on to the summer taxes, those are the charges for these services. So yes.
The problem with that is it's a process, and so we can't go mow the lawn once a week to keep the lawn looking good for them. It's a matter of mowing it down, the grass grows back up, we have to go through the whole process again, and then by the time it's so high, we can finally get it mowed again, and it's just a process that keeps going on. Part of the problem I know in the address that you're talking about is that those people live in Florida, they bought that house at tax auction, they have no intention of ever doing anything with it unless they can sell it. They've got it up for sale. And there's nothing we can do to enforce it. The cost goes back onto the taxes, the property will go back to the county land bank, and we'll receive no money for that.
Go ahead, Councilman Reed.
Okay, now, I need to know, what do you have to do to get laws changed? I mean, okay, if, you know the property I'm talking about, and the one across the street from me, to where you can't get anything done, and you send things into court, and you still don't get anything done, okay? So who do you go through, your city, your county, or your state, to get something done about that?
Calling can probably answer that better, but it depends on who owns the property. Generally, it's run by the county, because the county has the rights to take it on taxes and the land bank, but when it's owned by a private owner, that's a whole different process at that point. And we've gotten orders to tear down buildings and so forth, but then that comes with a cost that we're not going to recover from these properties. So the city's got to decide whether they have the money to tear down a structure. We're going to go that far and try to do that.
No.
I guess, I really want to know, because
You just want me to say something?
Go ahead, I can wait.
thank you, Carl.
Sure.
I really want to know because, like with the property across the street from me, it's been like that for like 5-6 years. Okay, now, if I decide I want to sell my property, That's gonna really hurt. I mean, nobody's gonna wanna buy it, even though mine is up to go. So what do you do about getting code to do? I know what I'm trying to say, trying to get whoever is responsible for that property to do what they need to do without it taking 15 years.
Part of that is what we've been trying to do with the rental certification, to make sure that all these rental properties around town that are like this, that people aren't just buying them and renting them out and never putting any money into them, to make them stay up to certain code levels, but only certain things can be done without inspections, where we can see the inside and so forth. I mean, we can obviously look at the outside, but that doesn't always give us the full answer either. The one house that we're talking about has half the roof missing from it. The only reason I know that is because you can go on the GIS and zoom down on it and see that it's missing. But even that is a picture from over a year ago. I couldn't get a court order off of that because it's not proof of something that's happening right now. I have to know within the last 24 hours they have to fix the roof basically if I want to get anything done about that. So it's a little more complicated than that. And that's why, again, rental certification is an important thing for the community if you want to eliminate some of the blight issues that we have.
Because I'm wondering, there's a lot of vacant houses, just like I said, there's 20 vacant houses in precinct 2. Okay, so what can be done about being able to not let people, I guess nothing, because they're private property, not let people sell those houses in the condition they're in.
But you also have the problem, right, you also have the problem with the land bank selling those properties when they're in the condition that they're in too. And so that's a concern as well, that I think the city council could maybe take up with the county a little bit as well. But the problem is we don't control property, so.
You know, and there's a bit of a cyclical problem with how this works too. I mean, you know, for those of you who have been on council, I mean, years ago, we had Dalrymple School, we had, what's the one on Main Street? Union Steel. I mean, we did, you know, I should say, lawsuits for, you know, maintaining a public nuisance on those. And we got judgments and we got orders for them to be torn down, but it's just a piece of paper. And when you've got people that have no money, it's, you know, how do you get blood out of a stone? With the noxious weed abatement, absolutely. I mean, we can go over and we can mow it when it gets to, I think the ordinance says an average grass height of a certain number of inches. And yes, those fees then go onto the taxes, but inevitably the people that aren't taking care of their property also aren't paying their taxes. So after 3 years, the tax reverts to the county, and when that happens, it wipes out the taxes that are owed to the city. So I mean, and then once they go up for auction for the land bank, then they get purchased by somebody else and back into the cycle. So I mean, we can go out and mow and we can put it onto the thing, but
And the mowing thing is probably difficult too, because it gets to 6 inches, and then how long does the abatement process take before we can go mow it? It's usually at least 7 days or something like that, I think it is. And so you got 7 more days of it growing, and then you got to get the contractor time to get out there and mow it, so you got another 4 or 5 days going. And so, I mean, you're talking maybe once a month we can mow it at best. So, and each time that's a cycle you have to go through. It's not just something, we can't just abate it once and just keep mowing it at that point.
Any other questions for Chief Kip? City Clerk, oh, sorry. Councilman Leonard.
Thank you, Mayor Snyder. Attorney Harvey, I can hear you loud and clear, but I was wondering if you could have your mic up, because I've had people tell me they can't hear you when you're speaking. I don't know.
It's all on the
No, it's only that one, okay, well, like, same with Chief Kip, I think the public really needs to hear these discussions, since I just want to make sure everyone's
I'll try to be louder.
speaking, yeah, using your outdoor voice.
City Clerk, can we go?
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Linnell,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Motion to approve the resolution for the small equipment noxious vegetation abatement. Chief Kip.
Same with this, only one bid on this. It's another local bid. It's actually a company owned by Jim Stewart. And it's within the reason of what we've paid in the past. So I think it's a good bid. And obviously, since it's our only bid, we give him a chance to see if he can perform as our past contractors have.
So we didn't actually.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. So
Jumped ahead.
no, it's okay. I'll
Second. Support. I'll support. Questions for Chief Kip on this?
So this is to remove, I'm sorry,
Councilor Rowland.
So this is to remove the grass and.
This is basically lawn mowing, the other one is for more heavy equipment, for hard work to do. So this is the small equipment.
Okay.
So.
City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Lanu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Thank you, Chief. We have a motion to approve the resolution for supporting the People Act.
So moved.
Support.
And then talking about like too much.
Councilman Jackson, you want to speak on this?
I kind of believe it speaks for itself, but just who maybe did not read any information about the act, how they're trying to change it, where we're not being able to, how would I say it, we will be able to vote the way we have been voting. And they're trying to change it where you can't have absentee ballot votes. And there's other voting here too, I'm sorry. Being able to, voting restrictions, and then also excessive polls, and they've been trying to deny even if someone had a felony, that they're not able to vote. And I think everybody should be heard. And so that's why when Gary brought it to me and I looked at it, I said, yes, I believe that every person should be heard, so everyone should have the opportunity to vote. So I thought that we should stick up for our people here, because we did have a great turnout for voting this year, because when they made some allocations to change how they were able to vote, we had more people that could vote, especially the absentee ballots. And I know they don't want that to even continue to happen. They like to take that away too. So I just say that we should also, as other cities have, go ahead and put in this resolution.
Councilor Williamson?
So I'm a big fan of this is a national movement that has grown since the 2020 election. All over the country, there are states, legislatures that are trying to push through and are pushing through very restrictive voting laws that were all undone in many states over the last 5 to 10 years. In Michigan, our legislature alone has a few of those bills floating around the House and the Michigan Senate to try to, again, eliminate absentee balloting, eliminate any pre-voting, and basically helping to restructure barriers for people that have access to voting in their communities. And so, and as you all know, even with as open and fair and free as our election was in 2020, it was still hard to vote. And so this is going to further restrict that access if these efforts are successful. And while right now as a municipality, we have very little as in power in making sure these things don't happen, we can lend our support to this act by passing it and making sure that people understand that Albion and the residents here do not agree with restricting voting access and want to continue giving people a say in how they're governed. Now, more importantly, locally, but way important, especially in 2020 nationally. It's really important that we have a say. So again, thank you to those Councilmember Jackson and the folks who are bringing this forward. This is a movement that is getting traction, is going to need a lot of traction in order to prevent these barriers from being put back into place. You will notice them in the next election if these barriers are put back into place. So thank you, Councilmember Jackson.
Any other comments on this topic? All right, City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Lanu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Thank you, Councilman Jackson. Motion to approve the 2021 fee schedule revision.
So moved.
Support. City Manager Square?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So I mentioned at the last council meeting, we are updating our forms and process to allow the public to utilize our recreation vans. We have all the forms ready to go. We're getting ready to implement, and when reviewing the fee schedule, we noticed we do not have a fee associated with that. So we're just bringing forward our recommendation to charge $3 per hour to a maximum of $25 per day for nonprofit and up to $50 per day for for-profit. With the addition of mileage, 14 cents per travel mile for nonprofits and 56 per travel mile for for-profits. And the 56, that is the,
It's a 2021 IRS rate.
yes, thank you, Coleman. So yes, we're just recommending that we approve this fee so we can roll out that program.
Yes, Councilman Lala.
I'm not sure if this is a good time, but, when you say something about the usage of the recreation van, how does insurance goes? Like if somebody's using our van, do they have to have insurance?
They should have insurance, and then our insurance will cover as well. They have to have a chauffeur's license, and they have to provide us proof of that, and then we do conduct a driving history background check on them as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comment for City Manager? Yep, Councilman Lala.
Just one, I see it says right here about peddlers and fancy merchandise, license. I don't have a problem with it. Does that include, food trucks and just people that are just selling food?
Yes, currently, right now, yes, that is the license that they would have to apply for, and so we are in the process of getting our, mobile food truck ordinance in place, then they would have to apply for that permit through that ordinance.
Okay, gotcha, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Waller,
Yes.
Lanu,
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Motion to approve the replacement of the ramp entrance to City Hall. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support.
Patrick Miller, Director, will take the floor.
All right, as many of you know, the ramp behind City Hall had a major malfunction the other day. A large section of it collapsed. Inspecting the ramp, we knew that it had some issues, but we did not expect it to fall so soon. Pretty much all the support underneath is rotted away, the screw heads are broken off, rotted out. I recommend completely tearing it out, replacing it. Lumber prices right now are 250% higher than they were a year ago. I got a quote for an aluminum ramp, it's lifetime warranty. I really recommend that's the way to go. I mean, City Hall's gonna be here for hopefully a long, long time, so.
Yes.
I'm sure most of the council is probably aware of the need for the handicapped to have access to City Hall, and just so the council is aware, we're required to have that ramp to remain ADA compliant, so.
Questions or comments for Patrick? No, I'm sorry, Councilman Lynn.
Thank you. I'm just curious, since this is happening right now and so important, is the back of our city hall the best place for ADA compliance? I know it would take a lot of restructuring to do otherwise, but I'm just curious.
I mean, the best place, we have parking right here at where the old apps floor was for the fire station, handicap parking. So I mean, it does kind of make sense to come right there and come up.
Yeah, I've just heard from people that City Hall isn't very accessible, and I would think going to the back of the building would be less accessible.
Yeah, either way, it really pans out. To do it properly, we really have to look at updating our door, either in the front or the back as well.
Absolutely, because it opens out, doesn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Can that be part of these updates?
That is actually, one of the goals that was approved by council as, 2021 goals to, replace the front door, the back door, and then public safety, entrance as well. I believe, when having discussions with other directors, we have looked into possibly putting a ramp out front, but how the layout and the architectural, it's going to be an extremely expensive project. So right now, we will continue to utilize the ADA entrance that we do have, and I think by getting a new aluminum ramp, that'll be definitely an improvement from what we currently have.
The curb line kind of makes sense too. If somebody was to park on the street, then, they'd have to go down and up the ramp at the sidewalk. So if they park over here by the app floor, the old app floor of the fire station, it's right there, there's no curb, you just come right up the ramp. So it might be a little easier actually.
I have one other question. I was curious how we got a 50% discount.
I'm not really sure, this is just what they quoted.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
And actually, you may notice that this quote has an older date, but I did call them last week and they're still willing to keep this price.
Yeah, I think for, long-term, definitely that's something that can be looked at, but I just don't think that, when you're taking into consideration that the sidewalks would have to be done, major renovations to the doors and entranceway, but at least we gotta be compliant right now, and so this is definitely something we can move forward on. Yes.
Yeah, and I can speak to the discount a little bit just because I've been getting some estimates for projects at my house. Because the cost of construction is so high, it seems that contractors have discounts all the time. It made my very expensive window project seem a lot less expensive when they gave me the 50% discount, but it was still extremely expensive. 11,000 is extremely expensive, I think, but it makes it feel better when it is 22 and it could have been 22. So I've had 4 projects in the last 2 weeks to bid it out. It was just, oh, we're gonna give you 50%, and then these things are gonna be half off here, 50, whatever. It's a way to make you feel better about your purchase.
Councilwoman.
I know at one time, when I first got on council, they were talking about putting the thing at the end of the building where the fire trucks used to go out when it was old, that they were talking about putting a drive up there for people who are handicapped. Because I've heard people talk about too, they don't like using the ramp here in the back of the building. And so it would be good, I know that you've got to get something done soon because of the law. But I think that you should also keep in mind what can be done better so that people don't have to go that way.
Yeah, I mean, even myself, I didn't like walking on that, let alone having to be in a wheelchair, so that might have been.
And I think the reason why they didn't go ahead and put it out in the fire entranceway back there was because they needed somewhere to put the stuff from that they already had for recreation. And so that was one of the reasons why they didn't put it there. They had to put the recreation stuff there. But still, I think there's something that could be looked at to make that more accessible.
Any other questions or comments? City Clerk Domingo.
Councilmember Lanu,
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
Clark. Yes. Reed. Yes. Jackson.
Yes.
Lawler.
Yes.
And Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Okay, so we had a discussion, last council meeting, you were each handed responses to the survey that the Albion College professor, along with the NAACP, conducted with citizens of the community to get feedback on our policing. And this was just an opportunity for us to kind of bring forth any comments that any of the council members had in regards to the responses, and to bring that forth because it would be beneficial to the NAACP along with Chief Kip to get our feedback as well. Yes.
I'd like to know your response first.
I did, when I talked with the NAACP, I mean, I've lived throughout my life, so the things that I read in that survey were not new. I mean, nothing jumped out to me as something that I haven't heard before. As my husband was on the police force for 12 years, that was just something that was always very prevalent to us. And then just having that continued relationship with the police department and my husband's position with campus safety, we get feedback all the time. So I wasn't surprised by anything, but we wanted to get your input just to make sure we're getting this all well-rounded. Yes, Councilman.
One of the takeaways I had from reading it was that and again, while not surprised at anything that was in there at all, these are, I feel as though many of the findings were things that we know about collectively, but now here it is. But I think one of the things that this report can do, and it's not going to do much good here in this room right now with just us, but I think it's something that City Manager Snyder, I think it's something that Chief Kip and others can use to help us facilitate more conversations with communities that feel either over-policed under police, don't feel like they're actually there, to protect them, or some of the comments that were made in there. But to be able to give forum to people who want to have a conversation about what does community policing look like to you? Like, I think one of the things we think about when we think about community policing is we think about, we go out, we do these things with our police officers in the communities, but maybe we need to have a conversation with the communities that we do this in. What do you want police officers to do to build a better relationship with you? What are some of the things we can do that are going to help build the trust that so many folks want to have in their local police force? And again, I don't think the report actually overwhelmingly stated we have like a terrible relationship between our police force and our community, because I don't, and even in that report, I don't think that's what came up, but there's definitely areas for improvement and opportunities for discussion and some mutual collaboration between police and community. And so that was one of the things that I took away from it. And I thought, well, where do I play a role in this? Since like I'm going to show up to some of these conversations and hear from people, especially folks that don't look like me, how they feel about the same police force that is in the community that I deal with too. So I was really hoping that this document would be used to help propel discussion and more internal work for the police force, which I'm sure they're taking it seriously. And so that was my key takeaway.
So, and Chief Kip can remind me, and I think it was with Joe Thomas, when he was chief here, he really was a champion for community policing, where initiatives were taken, and can't even remember how many years ago that was, when we started with our liaison officer in the schools, and where we of course had a larger police force where police officers were more engaged. One of the things that, did kind of get brought up in the survey was that other than Chief Kep, many people don't know the police officers that are on the force. And Chief Kep, he spoke at the NAACP meeting as well, so I don't want to steal his thunder if he wants to kind of get up and relay some of the comments that he made as well.
Well, one of the concerns about people saying they don't know the police officers, I kind of joke about that too, is because I don't know the police officers. We hired 6 officers in the last year. We're in the process of hiring 3 more right now. That's out of 19, we're hiring 9 in the last year. So our entire road patrol has completely changed. We have newer, younger officers. I kind of feel like I've been chief for almost 10 years now, and I feel like I'm starting over again with a whole new group of people. And most of it's through people retiring or choosing to leave because of personal reasons. So it is what it is. And so I think COVID has made it difficult for us to communicate with the community. We haven't been able to have meetings and do those things that we were doing in the past. I'm looking forward to that being over and get back to doing what we were doing before. Our national night out, going out and spraying the kids with a fire truck, all those kind of things that we do for a positive to the community. Mayor Snyder talked about Joe Thomas, and one of the things I learned from Joe Thomas, and I've known Joe for quite a while now, is that, to keep the department in the news and in a positive light, we started that with a Facebook page and posting stuff on the Facebook page that we were doing. But the reality is we're doing a lot of training. We have a lot of new people. We're teaching people all over again. And so there's not a lot of those things going on, mostly because of where we've been with COVID and such for the last year.
Yeah. So, we taught, Keena Williams made a wonderful idea that we work with community mentors, that we get community folks who can maybe take a new police officer under their wing, introduce them to folks in the neighborhoods, to go to places where they may not normally go through on a regular shift. But kind of like what Chief Kevin said, they work a schedule, and if we wanted them to do extra, which is we definitely can do, we would have to pay them. And so, that is just one idea that kind of came out during the discussions that I thought was pretty cool, and that I would like to see happen if some way we can make that happen. But also with the equity board that we're hoping to put in place to work with Chief Kip and the police force. So as of this point, I've only had 1 application. We have 7 seats. I am talking to folks all the time, trying to encourage them to submit that application that's found on the website for anybody who's listening and want to be on board. But yeah, that's something that we can definitely want to make sure that we're pulling in all populations, all aspects of our community to be heard, and that could give feedback to Chief Kip and the police force. Yes, Councilman Jackson.
So, Chief Kip, I know I hear this COVID-19. So my question is, what were you guys doing before COVID-19?
So.
I was meeting with,
Right.
individuals, letting them understand, like meeting even your staff.
Yep. We did, every year that we've had Juneteenth for the last 3 or 4 years, we've had almost half my department there, involved in that. We've done the National Night Out, the 2 years prior to last year. We've done, like, so we take the fire truck out, we spray the kids with the fire truck, I get the officers involved in that. We did the, I can't remember what it was called now, the meetings we had at the churches with the driving while black, there's no white meetings that we did as well. We've done a lot of community things like that, and I think we need to do more, absolutely. Like I said, it's been difficult for me in this last year between COVID and having a whole new staff and being short-staffed for most of the year. Even when we hire people, to give the example of 3 that we're hiring right now, it's very difficult to find people. We're not the only department that's having difficulty finding people. And so we're hiring people, we're sending to the police academy. We already got approval for the police academy. Probably all 3 of these people are gonna have to go to the police academy, which doesn't start until August 16th now. And once that starts, they won't be done until, I think it's December 12th. And then they start the field training program, which takes almost 6 months. So we're talking next summer before we count these 3 people on the road as part of our staff. And so we're still working short in places. Last year, we were down almost 7 people at times for the same reason. And so we just didn't have the people to do anything extra. But we're getting back there, and hopefully we'll keep moving in that direction. So.
Okay, and also what about the anti-bias and the racism training? Do you have that on your radar?
Yes, we have done that for the last couple of years. We've done both in-person and online training for that, and we'll continue to do it as I can find it. Sometimes it's difficult to find those type of classes. I've had discussions with people at Albion College about doing those type of classes as well. One of the things I talked to the NAACP about was education for the officers and what Albion College could do for that. I have several of my supervisors who've been taking colleges at Albion College because it's cheaper. But I said, how about Albion College is our way to educate the officers and give them the type of training you want them to have in the community. I think that would be a good way to do it, and do it at a cost that they can afford to do as well.
There's one training that I would recommend, and it's called White Man Ally.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a wonderful training because then you can go through the community here, even if you had to pick people on the outside to get that going, and also as a police officers in that. And they will learn a lot about different cultures.
Yeah.
So I would recommend looking into that also.
Okay, absolutely.
Yes.
And another example of how we're doing things, I've got 4 overtime spots posted for Juneteenth. So we'll have 4 officers there for sure. But again, those officers are paid overtime for that entire time. And I have X amount of dollars to do the job, and so we got to get our biggest bang for the buck when we're doing these type of events. So I hate to say that I have to pay them, but they're employees and this is a job, and that's how it works. They have a union contract and I don't have a choice. But I do think it's important for them to be involved in these type of things. There's a lot more people in the community than the ones that they meet every day and the duties that they do. So, and most of them, I tell you what, we got a great group of young people. I enjoy coming to work every day with these people. They're here, their hearts are in the right place. They're here to help people. And those are the kind of people that we're looking for to do this job. And so I'm excited about where the department's going. But again, we've been held back, and hopefully that's all going to go away and we can start moving forward again.
Okay.
And I talked to Chief because along with this man, we also have a group of young men that's going to walk with this man in there, and to kind of, monitor things and see how it goes. And if yours don't know the kids, they can say, this is John Joe. So
one of the other initiatives that we've been working on is Harry Bonner and I started a program for cadet, for the youth in the community to be part of the police department. We only did about 3 meetings before it kind of fell apart, mostly because the kids' schedules just didn't work well for what we were doing. And we just couldn't get it going. I have plans now with One Camp to start this up again. And my goal in this is to get some local youth interested in law enforcement and public safety, what we do. And so with that idea of bringing them in young and seeing what we do and being part of the department and encourage them to take this on as a career and maybe move forward with it as a career so we can get more of our local youth involved in public safety and what we do and a positive experience.
Yes,
I was down to the park yesterday, and there was a group of young men down there playing basketball, mixed race. You know, it's black, white, and everything. I was thinking about the police officers then. I said, it'd be nice if a couple of them would get in there with those guys and kind of help them with some of their language
Yeah.
and stuff that, you know, that you sometimes hear down there.
Right.
And it would be fun, and it would build their respect
Mhm.
for
Yep.
the officers too, so.
Just one other thing.
No, go ahead.
Have you ever been to, any of the schools that our youth go to, like the 12th graders? Or, you
As
know,
far as,
to talk to them about becoming a police officer?
no, I have not. We've tried doing some of that, but not recently. And I think that's a good idea as well. I try to encourage, I mean, the opportunities in law enforcement, and not even just for my department, right now are just amazing. Most departments will send you to a police academy, which if you try to go on your own, you're talking $10,000, just the initial cost. And if you want to do it here, we're going to provide you with the law enforcement training, the firefighting training, and it's all free. None of it costs you anything. And on top of that, you're going to get paid $44,000 a year to do it. So it's not just going to school, you're getting paid a lot of money to go to school. So, I mean, if somebody has the idea of wanting to be involved in this, it's a great opportunity to get into law enforcement. Not just here in our community, but to serve the communities that, you know, and to help people. And that's why, like I said, I got involved in this and we look for people that are really serious about helping people. And this is why they want to do it. And that's what we've got is a great bunch of young people that really want to help people. So.
Councilwoman Nick?
Thank you, Mayor Snyder. Chief Kip, thank you for being here tonight and answering our questions. Just with regard to paying officers extra, have we ever asked officers if they would be willing to volunteer their time?
They have volunteered their time at times, but it's a rare thing that they do. I mean, they work a lot of hours as it is. They work 12-hour shifts, their days off, they like their days off. And there's a lot of overtime as it is anyway because of vacations and so forth. So most of the time, even when I have overtime to fill for regular shifts, we have to order officers to work it. So trying to get them to do extra stuff on their own time. And interestingly enough, when I first started working, I take all the overtime people would give me. I like my paycheck. The younger people like their time off.
I hear that.
They work because they have to get what they need, but they prefer not to do it more than they have to do. So it's been a struggle for some of the overtime.
Okay.
So let alone volunteer time. So.
Okay. I do have another question. One of the first things was about the public safety appropriately responding to investigations and concerns, and I'm just curious if you could speak to that, because I know that that's been an ongoing thing.
That's a difficult one for me to answer because there's no specifics in there. I know one is that they're referring to the homicide that happened last year and the lack of public information. Public information on those type of crimes is very difficult for me to give out because it's an ongoing investigation. It's not solved. We have plenty of information. I can tell you our biggest holdup on this is the lack of witness support. And without witness support and without community support, these type of crimes just don't get solved. So beyond that, it's difficult for me to go into details of what exactly that means or whatever, because it is an open investigation and I'm still trying to get witnesses to testify. Other crimes, there was a mention of a sexual assault that wasn't properly handled. Without knowing what that was, I can go back and look at it and figure out exactly what that issue with that was. But officers are people just like anybody else. They make mistakes. They don't always do what they're supposed to do. And I need to know those things so that we can deal with them. Sometimes it's because they're so busy. There's so many other things going on. It just slips under the table. I always encourage. One of the first things I did when I became chief is I started printing everybody their own business card. It's got their name on it, it's got their email address on it, how to contact them. I encourage victims all the time. If you have questions, contact the officer. I think, the victim knows everything that's going on directly with them, but the officer has 10 other cases they're working on, and it might not be the priority for them, or they might forget to call back and explain what happened or whatever. So if you're the victim of a crime, never hesitate to at least email the officer and ask them the status or questions or anything like that. Don't wait for the officer to contact you. just remember that the officer's got a lot of other things on their plate than just that one incident. And it's always helpful for them to get asked questions rather than just expect or just waiting for them to call you. I can tell you, like with the homicide incident, the victim or the victim's spouse in this case has been kept informed almost on a weekly basis of where we are with this case and exactly what's going on with this case. They have more information, I think, than any other victim in the past has had. And that's always been my goal on every case that we deal with is it's all about the victim. Whatever we can do to facilitate what we can for the victim and protect that victim from anything that they need to be protected from is my goal in how we do our work. So.
Councilman Miller, I know you had your hand up with Councilman Williams.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Do we still, do reserve officers?
Yes.
And, okay,
Yeah.
because I was gonna say we don't.
Right.
I met some guy, he said he was an officer here before,
Mhm.
but he now works with Edmondson. Patrol, and, when I was talking to Mr. Edmondson, he said that, if you needed any help or anything like that, that his, reserve people will be glad to come in and help.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's good.
Yeah, we started the reserve program back up, I think in about, I think it ended in about 1998, and I started it back up again, I think in about 2014. It makes me a little bit nervous at times, because basically you're putting a police officer out on the street that doesn't have quite as much training as a regular police officer does. They act with that police officer, they have to be with a certified police officer, and they act with that police officer's authority. So it's helpful because you can send one car instead of two cars to a call at times, and it's helpful to have another set of eyes in the car and those type of things. But they go through a reserve training program, usually through Jackson County has a pretty good program that they put them through. It's more intense than what I went to a reserve program when I was at campus safety, and it's way more intense than that was. And I make sure, initially, we were only accepting people who were actually in the police academy, but those people disappear really quick because once they finish their police academy, they're finding a full-time job somewhere. We did hire quite a few of the first people that I hired when I became chief through that program. They were actually in the police academy. They worked as a reserve for us for a while, and then we hired them after they finished their police academy full-time. Currently, I have two reserves, Elmer Garrett, who has been with us for quite a while, and Nate Clark, code enforcement officer, who was also a reserve officer with us and is still doing some of that work. The biggest thing with the reserves is it's completely volunteer. And so there's a big time commitment there for them.
Okay, thanks.
Councilman Marie, did you have another question or comment?
I was going to ask if there was times when, like if a church or organization or something had a youth group that they wanted to get one of your officers to come.
We do that all the time when everybody asks. So all they gotta do is ask me and we'll figure it out. Either I'll be there or we'll have an officer there or both of us or however that works. But if anybody would like an officer at an event, just let me know and I'm happy to try to get somebody there if we can.
Councilman Clark?
Going back to the training that she was asking you about and the crimes that was committed in my precinct, I'm wondering what kind of training or are you giving your officers? Because I heard you say that we're all people, we make mistakes and things like that, but there is a such thing as being assertive. And the response time is very much is as important as being assertive, meaning that if you give a criminal time to fabricate a story, then it's harder to get it. So isn't there a holding time that an officer, when somebody has been named at a criminal crime, isn't there a holding time that you can talk to somebody even without, just because they're suspicious? And yes, they don't have to say anything because of a lawyer, but isn't there a time where you can hold somebody just for questioning? Because if I commit a crime and man's a part of it, you don't know what's gonna happen until you do it. So you gotta fabricate. So you can't fabricate your story until afterwards. You understand what I'm saying? So is there something that we're working on so people can have more of a quick response than 6, 7, 8 days later talking to the people that committed the crime?
Well, we have to catch them first. Usually that's the case. In the homicide in particular, we arrested one of the suspects that night and we questioned the suspect that night. The other 3 suspects we didn't find until several days later. Two of them actually came in after we posted information on Facebook about them being suspects and actually talked to us at that point. Well, they came in to see us, they didn't actually talk to us.
No, I'm just asking.
Yeah, I mean, usually it's if they're there and we know who they are and we can find them, we may arrest them very quickly, but if we can't find them, it's a matter of whether we can find them or not, so. But if they were suspects, they would have been arrested immediately, we could have found them.
Any other questions or comments for Chief Gibb? All right, thank you all. That was good information, and we'll definitely get this back to the NAACP. Next, we have a discussion on the city manager's 6-month evaluation. Councilman Clark will make sure this gets added to our agenda for discussion. So in your packet, you do have an evaluation form included. Haley's contract began March 15th, correct? Yes. March 15th. So her 6-month evaluation will be in and around before September 15th. So I am asking that each of you council members kind of keep some thoughts about each of these areas in the evaluation form so that we are prepared to turn this in. I would say no later than the beginning of August, just as a deadline to put out there for right now, to get these all turned to me. So then I can tabulate, pull together all the information from each of you so that we can sit down with our city manager to give her a thorough evaluation. So Councilwoman Clark, did you wanna?
Yeah. So the idea of asking for this is because I know we have new council members on board, and it's just like they say, it takes a village to raise a child. The same thing with Haley. She's a new council member, although she's done the job and did everything. I think it's very important for us to understand, you know, the areas that she needs to be, you know, that we're looking at and how she's evaluated, so we can get a good look and understand instead of being nitpicky, being able to help her to be successful in her role as city manager. So that's why I asked for this to come forward now, so it wouldn't be something that was dropped later on and then something might have happened and then that'd be fresh in your mind and you use that as ammunition at that time. More so that you can give a good, thorough evaluation and make sure you are able to give supportive suggestions if there's areas that you would like to see improved.
Yes, and a part, Mayor, if I may, a part of this process, I will conduct a self-evaluation on myself and provide that to council as a whole 30 days prior to you completing these evaluation forms. So I will make sure that that is done and provided to everyone so you have that feedback as well.
Do you have any questions or comments on the evaluation? Are you good on that? Awesome, so I will send out a friendly reminder as we get closer about getting these turned in. Okay, so we have a discussion on our transportation asset management plan. Director Miller, do you have information on this for us?
Mine's in a different line. Yeah, proceeding.
I have management.
Transportation, but you have to on UK?
Transportation.
Yep, they got. You
Oh,
got
I
any?
mean, okay, disregard.
I mean, it's happened before, it's got different, yeah. All right.
I will actually start this off for me.
Okay, sure.
Very well, and Director Miller will join me. So I don't know if council is aware, but Whiteman and Associates Inc.
been working with us to develop a transportation asset management plan. This plan goes, is a piece of the citywide large capital asset management plan that we are working to get put in place. That includes a water asset management plan, infrastructure, our transportation, I'm drawing a blank. Sewer, yes. So this is a piece of that plan. The question that I have for council are we happy and are we content with the current status that our roads are in? I think that's the biggest question that we need to ask all of us, all of ourselves. I mean, I think it's pretty clear we hear from left and right from everyone, and I know we all drive these roads, that I don't think we're happy and content with the condition of our roads. I just want to remind everyone we have a current millage in place. We bring in about $247,600 per year. Through this millage, those funds are pushed and used to maintain pretty much mostly our major streets. With this, Whiteman, they have developed a transportation asset management plan. However, we need to determine a level of funding to go with this plan. What good is a plan if we have it on the shelf, but we have no funds available to make the projects within that plan come to life? So with that, we are, they have gone through and rated all of our streets within our community. The average rating of the roads was a 3.05. That's on a scale of 1 to 10. That rating is poor, a very poor condition. So the bulk of our roads are in extremely poor condition. I think we're all aware of that. So with that, the city has done an excellent job of taking advantage of all of the grant opportunities that have come forth or have been released by the state. The current grant program that has been released by the state, it's a 5-year program. We are in year 4 of that program. The good thing about applying for grants, we receive that money, but then the unfortunate part of taking advantage of these opportunities, it makes us ineligible for some of the grant opportunities that are available because we have been awarded some of the previous grants. Not council member, but County Commissioner Gary Tompkins, you all are aware, he is big and adamant and push about the Act 51 funds. The current formula right now, our Act 51, those are revenues or funds that we receive from the state that are used to maintain our major and local streets. How that formula is set up, it is not benefiting the local communities. The bulk of those funds go to the larger metropolitan cities and not a lot of the local units. So it kind of falls on the residents to come up with how we pay to fix these roads. So that's why I want to ask council, are we happy? Are we content with the roads that we're in? Our administration, we are recommending, we work with Whiteman and Associate, looking to possibly pursue a local street millage. So it would be an additional millage to the street millage that we currently have in place, but those funds would be solely used for our local streets. The streets that we live on, the streets that we drive every single day. In your packet, you have been provided with, Whiteman has provided us with an estimate. So if we were to do an additional $0.5 million, we could look into bringing in an additional $41,700. We do an additional $1 million, we could bring in roughly an additional $83,400. That's not a lot when you look at how much it costs to do a street project. However, it gives us a little something extra to work with. So that is what I'm turning to council, I guess, what we need to decide. If we are happy and content with the funding level, the millage rate that we have in place, or do we want to look at putting in place the additional millage to better tackle some of these roads that we have here. So with that, I'll open it up to questions. Director Miller, please.
I could say, yeah, just a couple of things. It's kind of a reference to how far this would spread. We just got an estimate on Bidwell Street, and that's a very short section, and that was 185 for just that section. So that's kind of where you're looking at.
And that is the basic repaving, curbs, making the sidewalk ADA compliant, so the basics. It's not cheap to do roadway, and if you can see our average rating of our streets is level 3, we have a lot of work to do done. So this is what I'm looking to council. What would you like for us to do or see with this transportation asset management plan? Councilor Reed.
Okay, and I'll be talking about that a little bit later too, but it seems as though every time you come down to doing that, I'm all for that, but it seems like every time you come down to doing that, you still don't get the streets that need to be. Because we do the streets that we think a lot of people, that we know a lot of people use, but then you've got some streets that people don't always use that are going to just, it's just crumbled up in the dirt. And me, I'm all over the place. And I have listed several streets that, you know what I'm talking about more, down through there, that's just plain dirt. And just like my street. Now, Chestnut Street is pretty well used. I know that since the Malibu closed, you know, it's not used as much. But still, you get a lot of traffic coming up through there because when they get down to go to over that Albion Street Bridge, they'll come down Chestnut Street, go around it like that. And we got holes in that street that deep. I was out the other day with my wet measuring stick because it's ridiculous. And they've done street after street after street. They've never taken a look at that.
With this, Whiteman and team, they have come out and drove around our entire city. They have drove on all of our streets to determine this level of rain.
Yeah.
So all of the streets are included in this plan and they will be addressed through this plan. We just need to develop a level of funding to tackle these projects.
I'm just hoping they don't go to the same ones they usually do and get the others.
Quick question before Councilman Williamson. When was the last time we, after the millage? We just renewed that, was that last year, Joe? We renewed it for 3 years, at 3 mills.
So we're currently article, sorry.
So that was in 2020? Yes.
But that millage has been the same for the last 20 years, I believe.
Yes. So that's why, so there hasn't been an increase to that millage? No.
I think
a renewal.
this would actually be separate. This would be specifically to local streets to help speed up the process on these local streets, like what I'm talking about.
So we would still have that 3 mil and then we would go for whatever council decides, to pursue for a local street millage. Okay, that makes sense. Councilman Williamson.
Okay, so I guess one of the things I didn't understand completely in this, and I'm ready to, but I'm someone who's ready to vote however many mills I need to vote in order to get streets done. So I'm one of those folks, like 1 mill isn't that doing anything. What do we gotta do to get to where we actually wanna be locally? So one of the things that, and the thing with the millage is that the public has to vote it up, and it can't just be us that vote it up. I think it would be interesting if the city could put together an easy to read guide for residents about name the streets, name the order. If we're gonna vote up a millage, it's gonna be a multi-year, possible multi-mill, 3, 4, whatever that looks like. I don't even know what that number looks like. It looks like maybe like 6 or 7 just to even get a jump start on this. But before we actually ask the public to vote it up, let's let them get their hands on it, similar to what they did with the reconfiguration downtown, where they allowed people to come in and see what this was going to look like, have it say, maybe give some input on what roads they think are most important, so we can actually get some public input on this, even though we know which roads are the worst, and they have ratings and all that. We still need to have that feedback. Maybe one road is worse, but this is maybe the other road is more priority. We can find that out, but I would much rather see that process take place. So if you're asking me, am I happy with the roads? No. Am I content to continue forward? Absolutely not. Would I jump at the opportunity to change it? Yes, I think it needs to be a larger conversation than what's here. So I'm very supportive of wherever we're going with this, and hopefully it's going to involve more than just 1 mill.
Yeah, go ahead. That is exactly what we want to do. So tonight, we're just kind of wanting, looking for the direction, what would you like for us to do? Because we want to do just that, hold the educational town hall meetings to educate our community. We're going to seek this additional, this is what will be accomplished through this 20-year plan. We don't want to rush this because we need to give everyone time to really digest and fully understand what this would do. So we do plan to do that. We are just looking tonight for a direction on council. Would you like for us to pursue looking into 2, 3, 4 mills, or how we kind of gave you a basis? So 1 mill will bring in 83.4. An average treatment cost about $392,000. So keep that in mind. What would you?
Could we get multiple options? I mean, I would like to see like, what's the shoot for the moon, you know, portion, like, and I know that might scare us and give us a reality check, but I think not just us, but I think our citizens need to see it too, because I know I struggle when I talk to people about why can't we fix any more roads, they don't understand the limited funding versus how much it costs to do a road, and, you know, it's hard to take it down to the basics for people, so I'd love to shoot for the moon, just so you can see exactly what this costs. And then I'd love to see a couple of media actions that we could employ with people to say, hey, look, in order to do what we absolutely want to do, it's gonna cost you like 20 mils a year. That's not feasible or gonna happen. What are these actions that are gonna work for us better financially, individually, all across the city, but also achieve the goal of darn potholes everywhere.
Councilman Rowland had a hand up with what is it?
I got it from him.
Okay, Councilman Jackson.
Yes, and I think the most important part is the value of the city, but to allow people to know how long it takes to get road fixed. And, you know, that was a wake up call too, when I was able to come and see how long it really takes to get something done. Those roads are terrible. I'm like he as far as the dollars in the sense, I don't think it's really about that, it's about what can we get to get majority of these roads fixed, because they're awful.
Absolutely. Yes, Councilman Liddell.
Thank you, Mayor Snyder. Do we know, I was thinking shoot for the moon myself, and do we know
Yes.
how many mills are currently, I think there's a limit, isn't there, in terms of how many we can have?
We have reached our limit, so this would, total as a whole, what you just adopted.
Right, that is
tonight.
our limit.
So that's when we would have to go before the voters for any additional.
So the voters could approve 4 plus if they decided.
Well, you would have to, council would decide the
Right, what
language,
goes
what
before
goes
that.
before the voters, but it's ultimately up to our residents to vote on whether they would like to pursue this option or not.
I have a couple other questions.
But
So if I'm understanding this correctly, there's not actually a process in place in terms of which streets are done. I've heard that from a few different people. How have we determined which streets were previously done? And it sounds like there's not a clear process.
correct, from my conversations with staff, it kind of, we just bounced from precincts. We did a road in this precinct, so then the following year we would do something in this precinct. I know previous council, first, second, third, Wild and Hartwell, that was the last section that was determined by previous council. So that is what we are doing this year, and we are hoping to get a plan in place that will kind of detail every year what streets will be addressing.
And then my final question is just, with regard to the capital improvements and what's being outlined here, is there a coordination of utilities and different things that need to be updated as the streets are being done as well?
Yep, that's why we are putting in place the kind of citywide large capital asset management plan. So we are trying to get the most bang for our bucks by incorporating all of these plans. It doesn't make sense to redo a road, then next year we come up to, or 5 years, come up, tear that road, because we have to do the water main underneath. So we will coordinate those projects to repair the water and sewer main, and then repave the surface.
Thank you.
All right, so do you need anything else from us? No, I think I've got pretty good direction. So thank you both, appreciate that. Next item for discussion is our city water tower, Councilwoman Clark.
So I was wondering, I know, it had been discussed in council before about the water tower and it needing to, same thing, something that needs to be taken care of. I was wondering if there was any way that we could do like a survey because of COVID and how many people were at home and not moving and using more water and things like that, if that's something that we could look at and possibly get some funding for, or, cause it's like showing that maybe we're at that capacity, or, you know what I'm saying, to help us, maybe find some ideas.
Yeah, can
That's
I?
all I'm saying.
Right, can I just, provide a little background content for everyone on this? When speaking with Nikki, this has been another project that's been stop, start, just with a series of transition from city managers and then directors within the DPW. So we have had discussions on potentially building a second water tower here in town. And Whiteman, they actually have put together a draft preliminary engineering report. They provided Director Miller and I with a copy of that at the end of last week. Within that report, it contains a series of recommended projects.
and its second water tower is one of those projects. As long with upgrades to the water plant, upsizing distribution and transmission, of the water main, and yeah, like I said, the construction of the second water tower. It's just been something that we've been working, but just start. So we will be reviewing that draft PER internally, provide our feedback to Whiteman, and then they will come before council to give you an update on what that project would look like.
Patrick, do you have additional comments?
You asked about capacity. So every year Eagle provides a sanitary survey, and that's with our water department. And every year they find a deficiency as in water storage. They require us to have enough storage on hand for our entire usage for that day. Our usage is between 1.25 and 1.5 million gallons a day. We only have a 500,000 gallon storage tank. So they want us to have that 1.5, and that's where the second tower comes into place. So Whiteman is identified on that PDR.
Did you need anything else?
So did it kind of, just out of curiosity, did it kind of go up because of people being home more this year?
I can find that out very quickly. I can have that in the next meeting.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, discussion on precinct meetings. Councilman Clark.
Oh, so, I had a lot of stuff last week. So, because now we're being opened up and we will be able to have precinct meetings, I was wondering if, some of the council members would be willing to, have precinct meetings together and kind of mix company so we can get better, output of where people are and what they're thinking and what they would like to do. And try to come up with some creative ideas of how to get them there, you know, maybe what to put some money in and feed them, people like food. But just so we can get a better outcome from a lot of people to come out and, you know, and start. So some of these committees and things that we're trying to get people to be involved in, this is another way, once we get more people to come out, and we maybe get them to volunteer and get more active in the community. So I want to know how council felt about that.
Love it.
Councilman Lala.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. We have actually collaborated in previous years with other precincts to try to get a bigger turnout so that you don't have to run around so much. But yeah, I think that's a good idea. I used to do mine with Big Precinct. What we did together, and sometimes she would do her own, but it really was a good turnout when precincts get together. So if I could provide anything positive, that would be it. It's a great turnout when they get together.
Councilman Peterson.
Just as far as demographics go, I think it's important to pair the meetings. I think resources are used wisely when you kind of team up with things. And so I would offer up to Council Member Clark that I think Precinct 6, again, we're too small of a precinct anyway to maybe do our own, but if 6 and 1 wanted to share that meeting, and if you think strategically about where 6 and 1 are located and the demographic makeup of those, that could be a really transformational experience for people in both communities to be able to see one another and what each other's needs are, because I guess that in my precinct, there are not as many people who are facing some of the same things that are being dealt with in precinct 1. And I think that the conversations that we could have together would be mutually beneficial. So not only am I a fan of the precinct meetings, I'm offering up to Councilmember Clark that I would love to be the first one to team up with her for Precinct 6 and Precinct 1 to do ours together. In fact, we can do it in Precinct 1, or we can find another location that's more central, but I think that I'd be more than willing to do it. I think it'd be good if others teamed up and kind of gave opportunities for our citizens to have those chats. And I know that we're talking about this in terms of precincts, but I think this is just providing citizens extra opportunity to have them engage with us. So if someone from 5 or 3 or 2 shows up to a Precinct 1, Precinct 6 meeting, they're obviously welcome and a citizen here and they need to be heard. So it's not really just about the precinct, it's about just that extra opportunity for engaging with the public. And I can and would support that, and would be the first one to help you.
Yes, City Manager there.
Yes, Mayor, and I just want to remind folks, I'm working to finalize that RFP to release to seek community engagement specialists to help us with our comprehensive plan. But I think this would be another topic. Can they provide us with some ideas on how do we draw our residents to precinct meetings, to the town hall settings, and maybe by having those smaller or informal meetings, coming to speak before our council can be intimidating for a lot of people. So I think that I would definitely recommend partnering together and having that kind of a smaller setting. People may just feel more comfortable coming to you and sharing their issues and concerns with you in that type of setting. But I would definitely recommend that we utilize that community engagement specialist. We are looking to bring on board not only with precinct meetings, but our comprehensive plan, our recreation master plan, the policing. There's a lot of areas within our city that we could benefit from having that assistance. So I just wanted to remind council that RFP will be getting released here very soon.
And then I would also like to add that if you had any meetings that you would like for me to also attend, I'd be more than happy, since I don't have my own little precinct, but I'd be happy to go to anybody's precinct meeting, because I'm sure that folks have questions that maybe they may want to address to me. Yes, questions.
I think this is the appropriate time to mention this, because we're talking about meetings, precinct meetings, but meetings in general. I think one of the struggles we're gonna have coming out of COVID is the public's accessibility or comfortable being in rooms with people. And so I would just ask everyone to consider maybe holding these city council meetings elsewhere at some point, multiple times in a year, or at the end of the summer as we face into the fall and get more comfortable being together at a bigger venue, so that more people will come and have their room and feel comfortable to share. And that'll give us an opportunity to re-engage back with the public with what we used to do with some of the presentations we did for kids and teachers, and recognizing people in the community. More people will show up and be engaged. And I think this space wasn't built for 200 people to be in the room. So hopefully we can consider that moving forward too, just a couple of times a year.
Councilman Reed.
And there are people who are wanting to come too, so that is.
Are we good on this? Great, okay. Discussion on the resolution to declare racism as a public health crisis in the city of Albion. Councilwoman Rowland.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. We adopted the resolution July 20th, 2020, and the council really hasn't had any interaction with this resolution. So I decided to bring it back to us, because we really do need to do something with it. I did some researching over the past 2 weeks. I talked to our city manager about this resolution, and she gave me a couple ideas. I did talk to the actual person that had this resolution written up, which is former council member Jeanette Spicer. And we just sat around and just had a discussion. And one of the things that we all agreed upon, and even our city manager, is that we needed to encourage people to be on this committee. So you did say that you wanted people to be on this equity committee anyways. So I think that was addressed, and it was talked about with Jeanette about council members having the training, department heads having the training, and city entities having the training. She did mention that she did talk to council member Clark about some things, and so I just wanted to bring this back to the table so we can kind of get it going. Our city manager did express to me that once we get this committee in place and we get a couple meetings going, that it will probably take off on its own. So I'm just bringing it to all of us so that we can try to be aware and to try to encourage people to come and talk to our mayor, or even fill the application out. So I think that's a good thing to help our mayor do also. So I just wanted to bring it to our attention.
Yes, Councilmember Larley, she covered it, but I just want to just reiterate what she said. If you review the resolution that was passed, yes, we can do some things within, but the bulk falls on our equity task force. And I think by having that task force put in place, they will be reviewing city policies, city ordinances to make sure that we don't have some of these systemic barriers in place. So really encourage any constituents within your precincts or anyone interested to submit an application so that we can vet them and put them before you for approval. One step that we can get started on is getting some of these trainings scheduled. As I mentioned before, we are looking to do a lot of training internally. So we will be scheduling those with council as well as our department heads and employees as well. But really encourage people to please submit your applications to come on board the Albion Equity Program so we can really get, continue to move forward with this process.
So any other comments for this discussion? Yes, Councilman Leonard?
Thank you, Mayor Snyder. I thank you, Councilmember Lawler. I have asked and spoken with 3 people who were interested in serving our community in this capacity. And I think that there is a continual need for us to really consider how we are engaging with people and what incentives they would have to come here and to feel like their participation in time is worth it. So I just want to add that out there. You know, it's been over 9 months of hoping people would apply, and I'm sure each of us has reached out to people, but there's other things that have to happen. And so I think that we're definitely getting there. Our goals and a lot of the conversation we've had tonight relate to it, but I guess want to consider that there's always going to be like room for growth in this space. They say the biggest room in the world is the room for growth. So I just wanted to encourage us to all continue to be creative and think about how we can really support our community in wanting to participate in something like this, because it is a sacrifice to invest your time.
All right, discussion on Highland Park Juneteenth celebration, Councilman Reed.
I think I passed out just everybody to be going in the Thursday newspaper. For the celebration, the lineup of what's going to be happening. And I must say, the group that I work with this year, they are some hardworking people. They've got this thing lined out so nicely, and so we've got several groups that want to be in the parade. By the way, we'll be ready for your proclamation, and everything is just lined up by time so that the program part will be short to the point, and the rest of the day will be a lot of entertainment and fun.
Awesome, great news.
And we have eight health groups that will be there, that will also be doing COVID shot, blood pressures, diabetic testing, mental health stuff, and passing out things that are needed for health.
Wonderful. Any questions for Councilwoman? All right, future agenda items. Anybody want anything to be included for our next meeting? Councilman Jackson?
I know you talked about the repairing of the streets and need a public repair, but can we bring something where they can do some action?
You like update on the patching schedule?
Yes, please.
Or patching, street patching schedule?
And then I guess the other thing too, kind of know where Patrick is at with the truck information.
Yeah, I'm hoping to have that for the next one.
For the tree
Truck, yeah.
I'd like to request we discuss when we're going to start having meetings with people.
with public.
I'll check with a couple of cities who are already doing that, Marshall for one. That's more, yeah, we need to start engaging the public again because they're wanting to be engaged. And a lot of people have taken their shots, and we have ours, and we still have room to social distance and have a certain number of people. So.
Are you talking about here?
Yeah, I have an update on that for you in my city manager's report tonight. Any other agenda items for next meeting?
Oh, yeah, I did.
Oh, go ahead.
So it's not really agenda item, just something that needs to be brought to the attention. A lot of times I hear sirens all the time in my neighborhood and things happen. And I was talking to Councilman Reed and she was telling me that, at one time, city manager used to, when something happened, it wasn't named and specifics, but it would kind of be like a general overview of what's going on. So when people asked you about something, you'll be ahead of it instead of behind it. So if that's something we can look at doing. Okay.
I know it is.
Get on it.
Get on it.
Not comments, but just agenda items. Yes, Councilman Winston.
Can we get an update on rec and what's going on with, like little kids swimming programs and things like that? I just would like to know what's going on. I know one of the major things that was promised when the Y was gonna do rec was that we were gonna, make sure we get Learn to Swim and those things back online. Just wondering what's going on with that.
Councilman Jackson, do you have agenda? No.
I'm sorry, I was sorry.
Okay, public comments. Jesse, do we have anybody for public comments?
Yes, we have two. The first, we will bring in a Gary Tompkins.
Yeah, Jesse, I would say Tompkins for the final public comment.
Okay, so then the first will be a call-in. I don't have a name, so they'll have to announce their name.
Okay, so we just ask that you state your name, your address, and that you make sure that you're keeping our comments under public decorum.
The next will bring in Ronnie Sims, because I don't believe that individual is speaking.
Okay, Ronnie, yours, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Ronnie, name and address.
Yes, my name is Ronnie Sims at 710 West Erie. And I have a concern because as most of you know, I came to the council about purchasing some property behind my house. And I've talked to just about everybody on the council in regards to it. And nicely today, somebody did come and cut the grass behind my house, but it is a mess. And it was half cut. Most of you know where I live. Feel free to come by here and look at it. It's a mess. There's some sticks still back here, a pile of them that's been in my backyard, actually my neighbor's backyard, for the past 3 years. And we're talking about systemic racism. I'm looking at it because this would not happen on the other side of town. I guarantee it. The dog park look better than my backyard right now. And you can see the line on where the city owns property and how we're trying to take care of our grass and everything. I really think that you all should do something, and I'm very disappointed in just about every last one of you, especially my own representative, because nothing is being done. It's like every time I talk to you all, it's on deaf ears. And I really think that you all should take the same consideration for us on this side of town that you would on the other side of town. We've got too many properties over here that nobody's doing anything with, and you ought to go on about your business. You got the Austin Avenue, the Malibu, Dalrymple School, the hospital across the street, the old hospital, and the old nursing home. And they're just sitting here, nobody's talking about those things. But the mainly is, I want somebody to be out here as soon as possible, if not tomorrow, by tomorrow, and get my backyard looking like it's supposed to be looking, please. I've talked to just about every last one of you, like I said before. Nothing's being done, and I want you all to do something about it. Thank you.
Councilwoman Reed.
Last week, I've been over to Ryan's. I know the piles of, they trim trees, and they've got a bunch of stuff piled out there. And for the last year, 2 years, I've asked about having that pile and stuff moved, and it has not been moved. He's right about that. And that property down there that he's taking care of, I think that's part of the property that business in Battle Creek is trying to purchase. But he's keeping it clean, but that stuff has been there for at least, I know, 2 years, maybe 3 years. And every time I ask about it being something done about it, nobody's done it.
Jesse, do we have anybody else?
I'll try one more time for the individual that's a call-in.
Jesse, maybe announce the number.
829-842-61483. My apologies.
They keep unmuting me.
No, we can hear you. Can you state your name and address?
I don't think it was a public comment.
Thank you. She said she did. She said just now, they keep unmuting me, so I don't think they.
That's Ms. Shadows.
Yeah.
Yes, next is Gary Tompkins.
Yes, good evening, everybody. Hey, Madam Mayor, the council members, City Manager Snyder, and the residents listening this evening. Good evening, Gary Tompkins, Yorktown County Commissioner. Great to see you folks this evening, albeit be virtual, so hopefully you will be able to get back to seeing each other very soon. I'll just briefly go over a few things real quickly to cover some bases. At our May 20th County Commissioner meeting, Administrator Kelly Scott announced that all staff and visitors to all county buildings in the county, with the exception of the Justice Center court-related areas, will no longer be required to wear masks if they are fully vaccinated. Now, again, this does not apply to the Justice Center court-related areas because they're on a different track than we are as they're going through the Michigan Supreme Court. So just wanted to let everybody know that if you are in fact fully vaccinated, you can walk into any of our county buildings without a mask if you prefer. Also, too, the County Board of Commissioners will be returning to in-person meetings at our July 15th meeting. So we will be coming back to in-person meetings on that date. The Board of Commissioners held a special workshop on May 28th, focusing on the American Rescue Plan Act funds. The county received its first payment of $13 million in May, and we'll get the other half next year and has until 2024 to be able to spend that money. At the meeting, we heard an overview of the initial county strategy with reports from several different entities on households facing financial hardships, economic and tourism impacts, financial assistance to households and businesses, and county court needs. We will continue to have further discussions. I believe that Administrator Scott and Chair Frisbee also had a meeting with the municipalities and the villages within the county, and I'm sure that they discussed some of those ARPA funds as well as what the municipalities and villages may need as well. So good discussion. We'll continue with that discussion going forward. The Broadband Task Force, the High-Speed Internet Broadband County Task Force, held its first meeting on May 18th. Merit Network, which we hired to conduct the study, will be providing that study and data collection for high-speed internet gaps in the county. The surveys will be conducted over the summer utilizing various methods, from either paper pencil to also to internet, but a variety of means to try to get out to as many people as possible. The results of that study will be likely available in October. And once completed, a financial feasibility study will be conducted with cost and infrastructure requirements. I have been in contact with officials from Boone County, Kentucky, who are one of the very first counties in the nation to have countywide internet, and they've actually been able to execute this plan. So I've been asking them as part of this committee to, if I could get a hold of that plan, just to see how they were able to execute it and what were some of the positive impacts and things that they were able to get to that point. So stay tuned for that as we move through that process, but it's encouraging. Certainly all of us are dealing with high-speed internet problems, certainly throughout the county. So we're looking forward to that. Upcoming recycling events in June, most of you know, and I'm sure City Manager Snyder will include that in a report, but in the Albion area from the county, the electronic, scrap metal, and tire recycling will be June 26th at Ketchum Field. And I don't know, City Manager Snyder, do you have a time on that, as when it's going to be, from 9 to 1 or whatnot?
9 to 3.
9 to 3. Thank you very much. I did not have a time, so I appreciate that. Just as a reminder for certainly a lot of the seniors in Albion, the Fork Senior Center is officially reopening July 6th. It's much to the very positive of a lot of people who are ready to get back, and especially our seniors, back to out of their social isolation and hopefully back to some level of normalcy for them. Is my monthly newsletter, as most of you do receive my monthly newsletter. As I'm listening to your asset management plan discussion that you folks had tonight, it goes right in conjunction with what I supplied in my newsletter this month from the Michigan Transportation Asset Management Council's annual report on roads and bridges for 2020. It clearly shows over the next 10 years that our roads and bridges will continue to worsen. So we're 70 years into Act 51, and you guys have to be judged for yourself. You can look out your window every morning, and is it truly working? You know, as I've had the last 3 comments that I've had from legislators that I've talked to is, 1, it's too difficult. 2, I'm supposedly the only one talking about roads, which I find to be very, very interesting that I'm the only one. And then the third thing I heard today, a quote, was they're too scared to open up Act 51 for fear that they may make it worse. So I'm just, and listening to your discussion and knowing that you guys having an average PASER rating of 3.05, I was just at another meeting tonight, and 86% of their roads are PASER 3 and less as well. I just feel really it's sad that the state government has kind of let us down in terms of not really dealing with this issue, and thus putting it back on the backs of the cities and the townships in the state. And that's not how it should be. So I'm going to continue to beat this drum. I will continue to do so, because we have to do something different. As you guys know, 10, 12 mills, taking more burden for the taxpayers just simply isn't something that's realistic. And the state needs to really step up and do something different. And I'm hoping that as I continue to push this out, that there will be some legislator that will actually hook onto this and actually do something about it, because we all deserve to have better roads. We also don't deserve to be saddled with the burden that we're being placed upon us. So again, you guys will continue. It's probably, I know you guys probably think I'm just the same old drum all the time, but I'm going to continue doing it because I care about my constituents and I care about the city of Albion, and I think we can do a lot better. So with that being said, just a few things to touch base with. Again, it's great to see all of you, albeit be virtual. Hopefully we'll be able to get back to in person soon, and looking forward to it. So thank you very much, and have a great evening, folks.
Thank you. Yes, Councilman.
Can I ask Gary Tompkins something, please?
Gary, are you still with us?
I sure am. Yes, ma'am.
So, thank you, Ms. Mayor. Thank you, Gary, for the update. I did hear you say something about people that are fully vaccinated won't have to wear their masks to go into certain places. How is the state determining that? Are they letting people police themselves, or are people being asked if they're, have they been vaccinated? Because some feel like if you ask them, it's a violation of their medical or HIPAA law or whatever. So how is the state level handling that with people not wearing their mask?
Yeah, the state is obviously in a battle between whether or not they want to, between vaccine passports versus not having them. And so there's a lot of discussion at the state in terms of how they're doing it. As it relates to the county level, we're basically just using the honor system at this point in time. But I will say this, even though it is an honor system, if you obviously feel comfortable going into the county buildings and still wearing a mask, please do so. Please continue to socially distance. Whatever you feel is up to you. But at this point in time, pending any further action that be had at the state at this point in time, as it relates to county buildings in the county, it's simply just an honor system. So that's where we stand right now. I wish I could have a better answer, but we were hoping that the state would be able to come together at some resolution, but unfortunately they've not been able to. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does. Thank you very much.
You are very welcome. Absolutely. My pleasure. All right. Thank you very much. Yep. Have a great evening.
Alright, so, our city manager report. Alright, thank you, Mayor. Just want to make, Jesse, do we have one more? Because it looks like, Paul Agnew from Rep. Hanson's office. Does he wish to make a comment?
Hello, can you hear me? Yep, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, go ahead.
Yeah, that conversation about passports. There's been no, to our knowledge, anyone asking anybody to show a passport, or there's been no planning or any kind of energy put into creating a passport. There was an attempt to pass a law to ban passports, but nobody really is aware of any effort to create them or require them. The state orders also put people, on the honor system, and fully vaccinated people are free to go about however they want. People that are not vaccinated are expected to be sincere and honest about it and mask when they're indoors, but there are no mask orders outdoors. So it puts a lot of burden on employers and people who run workplaces to make sure their employees are safe. But there's a rumor about mask mandates or passports. We don't see where that's coming from. So the state orders there's no enforcement for people that aren't wearing masks. It's really just up to the individual property owner. If you have a workplace, your job is to keep your employees safe, keep customers safe. And it's on each and everybody to do their part, rather than any kind of mandate from the state.
Thank you. Jesse, anybody else?
No, not seeing any.
All right, city manager report.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So with that, I will just update everyone on the cities, where we stand with our policies. We have updated all of our policies in our preparedness, our COVID-19 preparedness and response plan. We have changed the signage on the door, so if you are fully vaccinated, you are not required to wear a mask when coming into City Hall. Our hours of operation will remain as is until July 1, when all of the gathering restrictions and any restrictions are lifted. So we will return to in-person meetings as well as look into extending the hours back to regular 8 to 5. We're still being mindful of watching the weekly update. Our county health officer, Eric Hustle, he has just encouraged we need to be mindful because our vaccination rate in the county is rather low. So we just need to make sure that we are still doing all the necessary precautions, make sure we are wearing masks, if you're not vaccinated, washing our hands, social distancing. So we're just watching our positivity rate within the county too, because we don't want to, I know summer is amongst us and we don't want to get ahead of ourselves and open wide up, and then we are looking into a situation. I will say the city, we have done an excellent job. I think we have less than 10 cases this entire time with COVID. So it just shows that our employees are taking the policies and everything that we have put in place very seriously. And I applaud them for that. And I just want to make sure that we keep our levels low. A copy of our report was included in the packet. I just want to announce the Parks and Recreation Community Survey that is live. We are in the process of updating our Parks and Recreation Master Plan. So we are looking for feedback from our residents. There is a survey link on the website and we have hard copies here at City Hall. The survey is open through June 30th. So please encourage our constituents to provide their feedback. The survey takes less than 10 minutes to complete. The YMCA programs, they continue to be a success. I talked with Jill Hine earlier today. They have one more interview scheduled for this week for the recreation manager position. They are hoping to extend an offer by the end of this week. So I will reach out to her and let her know that we would like an update on the current programs that we have in place. I have included the June calendar as well as the water aerobics and swim calendar in the packet, and it's on the website as well. Our farmers market, the Wednesday markets is off to a great start, and even though we've had rain, it seems like on every Wednesday that we've had since announcing the farmers market, but we have been reauthorized to accept SNAP and double-up bucks, so they will be looking forward to accepting SNAP benefits hopefully at this week's market. So just please go out and support the vendors there. It is scheduled to run every Wednesday from 4 to 7 through September 29th. I met with the County Land Bank. I will be meeting with them on a monthly basis just to get an update on what's going on with the land bank. I provided an update on some of the properties. 11,000 West Erie Street, they have an appraisal completed and they will be listing that within the next 2 weeks. 205 Boston Avenue will be demolished if not on September 1, definitely by September 1, 2021. 111 West Elm Street, that is the current Transform This Home project. And then 131 North Superior, that is, they received a grant in the amount of $200,000 from the state land bank to do remediation work at that property. I also had the opportunity to attend the open house for the Austin School. It was really kind of a cool experience to be able to go into that building and see what that facility looks like after all these years of seeing it just boarded up. So that property is on the market with, as well as 5 other parcels surrounded in that area. So they are looking to get that property sold. The American Rescue Plan, as Commissioner Tompkins mentioned, the county received their half. Unfortunately, the city of Albion, we are a non-entitlement unit, so we will receive our distribution from the state. The state of Michigan, they have up to 30 days from when they receive the funds from the federal level to come up with a process for the local non-entitlement units. We have to request our funds from the state. They have not put anything in place, so we are still waiting to see what that process will look like for us to apply for our funds. So I will be looking to hold kind of a work session with council either at the end of June, early July. I would like to get the budget process going and completed much sooner than we have the past few years. I would like for us all to go into the month of December knowing that all of the hard, busy work is done. We can go and enjoy all of the holidays. So stay tuned for that. We will start scheduling kind of some of those work sessions to get that process taken care of. Just want to remind everyone, we have a joint work session with the Planning Commission to kick off our comprehensive plan update this Saturday, June 12th from 9 a.m. to 1 at the Ludington Center. That will be an in-person for both boards with the public attending virtually. Lunch will be provided, so we will kind of work through lunch and kind of get that process going. So if you are available, I encourage everyone to attend. Just an update on the MDOT, the Michigan Avenue reconfiguration. And I was MDOT about a week or so ago, and their team is in the process of finalizing 3 additional plans for this reconfiguration. They will be presenting those 3 new options at our second June meeting to receive feedback from the council. And then they will release those options to the public and start that whole process over again with the public input from the community. So nothing is final. I just want to reiterate that and put that out there to the community that they received all of their comments. They actually said that they kind of received a split. They received the bulk of comments who were in favor of and supported the reconfiguration, and then they were split on who was opposed to the option that was released. So it's reassuring that they are really taking into consideration all the comments that they received and taking the time to come up with new plans for that roadway. So stay tuned to see what those new options are. As Commissioner Tompkins said, just to remind everyone, we have the citywide cleanup event scheduled for Saturday, June 26th from 9 to 3. Ketchum and Harris Fields are the drop-off locations. I have a few other announcements. Friday afternoon, we were notified that the city's fisheries habitat grant program application was approved in the amount of $105,000. So this grant will be used to conduct a feasibility study on the dams within our Victory Park. So this is a big win for the city. So we will look into whether or not what it costs to maintain and upkeep those dams in our community, or what it look like to if we remove the dams and what that new space will look like. So we are very excited to receive that notification, and we will, I will provide you with updates as that process continues to move forward. Tree removal equipment, Director Miller is in the process. We've looked into several different options, and we just not have received all of the quotes back. So we wanted to make sure we had all of the information before coming back to council, so we're not just giving you pieces by piece. So we will provide you with an update, hopefully by the next council meeting. Our summer newsletter was released today. It is on our website and it's been shared on several social media platforms. It details all of the summer events, the first part of summer events. I would encourage everyone to read through that and check out some of the events that are happening here in town. And then as Commissioner Thompson mentioned, I did have a meeting Friday morning with County Commissioner Kelly Scott and the other managers and township supervisors in the county, just trying to discuss what's happening in our communities. She did mention that the county, with their American Rescue Funds, they actually received a large amount. They are looking to put in a program that would allow for residents to seek assistance for property taxes, delinquent property taxes. So they are working with their treasurer's office to kind of figure out what that program could look like, because they obviously want to relieve some of the burden for not only the residents, but they see what that could be a burden for the local units of government. If we have a lot of properties that are seized within the foreclosure process, that just puts a burden on not only the resident, but then the local unit as well. So they will be looking to develop a program, and I will provide more information as soon as I get that from our county administrator. I just want to make sure I'm not forgetting everything, and I think that is it. Any questions?
Yes, Councilman Lloyd.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. I have a couple, as far as you giving the update for the Calhoun County Land Bank, did we ever resolve, or did they ever come to us and talk about properties that's being reserved, or do we have any control over that, or?
It's online.
It's already on there?
It's online.
Okay.
If they provided council with a list of all the properties that they have within the city of Albion, as well as the information on the different programs that they offer for their different properties. So if you have anyone interested in a land bank property, please direct them to speak to either Amy Rose Robertson or Krista Trout Edwards. They will be able to provide them with the tools and resources for the different programs.
So they never, I know a question came about properties, like I had a person come to me today and they said, I want to get the property next door to my property, but he's getting told that property is being reserved for development. So I remember Councilmember Clark asking about it. So I just wanted to make sure that they either responded to what was asked, or do we just not engage at all?
No, I will reach out to Chris and see if they have a list that are reserved for future development, but usually if anyone's interested, they have certain requirements for their programs. So I would just direct anyone that's interested in a land bank property to speak to someone at the land bank, or even Director Arnold will be able to provide them with some information on how to proceed. But I will reach out to Krista and provide you with an update on if we do have a list of reserved properties.
Okay, thank you very much. The other one was, did I hear you say that you'd be providing programs from the YMCA at a later date? Because I was just wondering, people are asking, is it anything for the kids, like baseball, football, t-ball, basketball? I know we have some things going on, but these are like the most core things that the kids want to absolutely do.
That was Councilman Williamson's request for the next.
Okay.
Yep,
Can
and I
that
know,
be included?
yes,
Okay.
I sure will. And I know the biggest hurdle, they were trying to get that recreation manager hired. And then once they have that person in place, they will be able to kind of take the feedback from the residents and put more programs in place through a partnership with the Y. But I also want to highlight Playwright Academy. They are currently hosting T-ball for our community. So direct them to speak with Milton Barnes or someone with Playwright Academy, because that is being offered right now as well.
Okay, I think the word free was being looked at besides whatever another organization was taking on. So they was just wondering if the YMCA would do anything like that. They was just being specific, but I'll make sure I get the message.
Yep, I will, and I will ask, follow up on that.
And with Playwright, I know they're not charging a fee for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
To be on the fee. Any other questions for City Manager Stayer? No, all right. Councilmember comments. Councilwoman Reed.
Okay, I have, because Mr. Duncan was told that he could not attend the meeting. He gave me a letter that he wanted read. So I have it. I made copies in case anyone needs them. Says Council Mayor and we the people. My name is John Duncan, 1203 2nd Street, Albion, Michigan. I have some questions for you. I am on the 4th city manager with no or little available time to answer questions concerning precinct 1. Concerning First Precinct Street project, we were told this was a complete tear down, but they are picking what is being fixed. If things changed, why the secrecy? People should know. Tom Miller was asked if it was a full tear out. He said something changed. I asked what, and he wouldn't answer. How much is the grant and what happens to the excess since grants don't need repayment? Is there a budget breakdown? Why can't anyone see the blueprint for the project? Who is heading the project? Who is heading the project and available for community questions and answers? If sidewalks and curbs are out of code, why aren't they being repaired? I am having issues getting this done. Why doesn't council have information to provide to the public? There is never any accountability or concern about ethics by the city. Therefore, no trust in the public officials. We get little service for the taxes we pay. Why do we have, I don't know why do we have Albion College over people? Albion College and the city disregard code for them and enforce it on us. That's tyranny. I went up, he invited me to come and look at the sidewalk in front of his house. And it was places where water things, is that water things, those round things that go down in the ground? Okay, they tore out the sidewalk there, but then there's other pieces of the sidewalk that does not have these in it that they didn't tear out that are messed up. And he is concerned about that. If they're doing the street and they're doing the curb and they're doing the pieces, the sidewalk pieces that's got the water things, why can't they do the whole sidewalk?
So that sidewalk was wondering when we had the college student here doing the surveys about all the different sidewalks and taking pictures. That was one of the particular sidewalks that I took a picture of in the area. At that time, his question was about where was the money going, why wouldn't we use that money to fix the sidewalk? We answered that question in several council meetings. I also told him that why that was not happening. I think he's lumping the construction of the street with the sidewalk, and those are totally two different budgets and totally two different ways that they should be handled.
I realize his concern because way back when I was first on council, that had been brought up to us. First Street, Second Street, and is it Wild? First Street, Second Street, and Wild. Even when Ms. Mitchell was here, he was complaining about First Street, because the streets haven't been done in what, 40 years, they said? And so.
So that's why we got the streets done when we talked about it last year, and that's why they're getting repaired this year. But we did not mention sidewalks when we discussed that.
Yes, if I can, Councilmember Clark, you're correct. I think he's combining two different projects. The first, second, third, Wild and Hartwell Street, that is for full replacement of the roadway, the water, and the sewer main underneath the street. So that is what they are working to do. The sidewalk improvement project that council approved to repair and replace all of the entrance ramps to make them all ADA compliant. So the funds within that sidewalk fund, council approved to utilize those funds to repair those entrance ramps. That project will take off at the end of the summer, end of July, beginning of August. So they are two separate projects. And the sidewalk repairing of the sidewalk was not designed into that roadway project.
Okay, well then I'm gonna have him get in touch with you because he's got a paper that was way back that said something different about that. I don't know.
Okay. Happy to talk with them.
Yes, Councilman Waller.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. I have a couple things I've got written down. First of all, I just want to thank the public safety for the increase on the side streets. I had asked for, well, people were actually running stop signs. And in my precinct, we do have little children that's out playing and like I said, playing with balls, you know, they run after balls. So I just wanted to tell them that, you know, thank you for that, because I do see, you know, a little bit more patrol in my area. So that's one thing. Another thing, if I may, city manager asked Scott Kemp a question for a response. Okay, so people in front of stores playing the flute for money, or can I get $1, or can I get spare change? A lot of our stores are having problems with that. One store person that owned the actual store, they were saying that, you know, we didn't have enough people to police and try to help with people standing in front of their stores asking for change or $1 or whatever. But I have witnessed that people don't go into these stores like they probably would, because people are there asking for cheaper change and dollars, you know, when people go in or out the store. So I don't know if that's something that we can do or anything like that. I'm just bringing it to the attention because he did say he called the officers for help, but there really wasn't much they could do. So I don't know how that process goes.
Yeah, I guess I would have to know the specific incident. We can't do much about it, but if the store owner wants them off the property, they can bar them from the property, and then we can ask them to leave at that point.
Oh, okay. So it's a process.
Yeah, but I don't know the context of this. I mean, as far as them doing anything illegal, it's not illegal, but it would be the store owner that could ask them to not do it on their property.
Oh, okay, that's good information. This,
Call fast.
So what I can offer to possibly help answer your question is there was a court decision that basically said begging is a protected First Amendment right. So unless they're on private property, as long as they do it on public property and they're not violating some other law, it's protected conduct. It's looked at as free speech.
okay.
And where that would be difficult is like, if you're at like Family Fair, in front of their doors is their property, but if you're at a downtown business, the sidewalk is public property, so we couldn't bar them from the public property on the sidewalk, so. If that helps in the context.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
Yeah.
This question is for city manager. I wanted to ask you to kind of explain about license for peddlers and food trucks and why they have to have a background check. Could you do that for us, please? I have a hard time explaining it, so.
Yep, so the current process with our requirement for a peddler's license, it does require a background check. Peddler's license, generally businesses or groups who apply for those are people who would be out in the residential areas, sometimes going door to door. So we just conduct that background check to make sure that we are possibly having a potential situation by having one of these groups go to one of our residents. So it's just a requirement that we have for that permit. When it comes to food trucks, I would really stress that the biggest thing that they need to have is make sure that they are in touch with the county health department and receive their license or permit from them. Because if they don't have that, then they should not be selling food or doing anything. And we are working to get an official food truck ordinance in place where we will have a permit and application process that they will have to apply for.
Helen has information on this too.
Aside from, and Haley had an excellent point about the health code, but the other thing that we're running into is if you're gonna operate a food truck, which is obviously essentially mobile food vending, you have to have a valid driver's license, and that has been problematic, not just in Albion, but obviously we don't want to encourage someone to operate a vehicle who is not licensed to do so.
Some of them you don't drive, you just drop them off somewhere, all right?
Some of them are stationary, but usually the idea of a food truck is that moves from place to place, and obviously you need to be licensed to drive in Michigan in order to do that, so.
Councilman Lonnie, you have one?
I have one more, but I don't know if she wanted to address it, but I did have one more, and I think this one is, for our chief. I would like to know for myself, how safe are we during council meetings? I can see people coming up. I mean, when we are not, don't have people in here, how safe are we? Cause I mean, people come and they exercise their rights, and then I'm sitting here watching them come up the steps. I'm probably gonna hit the back door. But I just seriously wanna know,
Right.
you know, how safe are we?
Well, unlike most citizens, you almost always have an armed police officer here. And so I would say you're safer than the majority of our citizens in the community who don't always have an armed police officer with them. But anything can happen at any time, you know, so I can't really answer that question. It just depends on the person's state of mind that you're dealing with, so.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And this may be a conversation we want to have with the chief privately, to let him know your concerns.
Chief and I had that conversation a long time ago, because I told him I'm not looking good jumping out of that window into the river. And if somebody comes here, where am I gonna go?
So, is that, was that? Okay.
Yeah, I'm good with it, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilman Reed.
I just got some things. I brought in some pictures if anybody wanna see them. This is Daddy's house and the grass and stuff that we were talking about before. I told her I would bring them so you all could kind of see what she was talking about. The next thing, I'm going to request again, and I realize now that COVID is getting over, that we should be able to do that. That we get the recreation vans and that we ride the city. And each council person pick out something in their area that they think really needs to be seen by everybody. So that we can get a look at the things that we're talking about. And let's see. And I'm sure we've all been vaccinated. I know I have. And so therefore we should be pretty safe. Wear your mask if you want to. Then the next thing, I would like to ask that council have telephone numbers of people that they need to contact. Because when I got ready yesterday trying to contact people about the water thing, I didn't have any numbers. And so I'm calling people all over everywhere trying to figure out, do you have such and such number? So could the city manager, assistant city manager, I had Chief's number till I got a new phone. And it wiped out, so I got to get you again. And whoever needs to be contacted, if it's just one person who can contact the rest of you, so that we can manage to get things done that we need to have done. I spoke with Ian about Cass Street today, and before Juneteenth, I'd like to see that thing up there. There's milk cartons and stuff laying out on the side of the street. I talked to him too, and I talked to you, Haley, about that piece of property that's across the street from Dollar General. Okay, that empty parking lot where the lady says she can't clean it, her husband can't do the poison ivy there anymore, so she'd like to have that cleaned up, and it really do look a mess. And also, I talked to you all about the holes, and I don't know what you do about that at Dollar General in the parking lot. When you go in, it's just holes everywhere. And then I would like to see more trash cans at Highland Park, and we're gonna have to get tables moved out there for Juneteenth. But I've been out there working with people at different times, and there just really isn't enough trash cans. And people are throwing stuff, which they throw stuff anyway. But I think if we had a few more trash cans out there, it might be able to keep it a little cleaner. They wouldn't have to go way over there to get to put their stuff in a trash can, but, you know, it would be closer. Trash cans, and I had talked to Chief Kip about cameras or something, because in those parking lots, there's been a lot of broke bottles, just broke bottles and stuff that lets you know that illegal stuff is going out there, like the little things that they use, drugs and stuff like that. And I would like to see that kind of picked up and cleaned up a little bit more. And if we, let's see. Oh, I'm gonna have a park cleanup day on Sunday, June 13th from 1 to 4. So, if you guys wanna put your blue jeans on and then take your high heels off, put your tennis shoes on and come on out and help. We appreciate that. Oh, one other thing, as Councilwoman Clark was talking about, it would be nice if, in the past, we've had, things that are happening, a list of things that are happening, and I get calls all the time, because the police usually, when they go up and leaving the police station, they come up Eden Street, and they're coming up Eden Street with the lights flashing and whistles going, and people call me and ask me what's going on, and I don't know what's going on. And I know our other city manager, she used to just put an email on and say, you know, yeah, she did that, you know, such and such is happening. Somebody asked, called me and said, did you hear about the meth bus? Was there a meth bus? And that's what I told her. I said, you don't have to hear anything, so no, as far as I'm concerned, no meth bus. But it would be good to know, because they figure you're supposed to be the council person. If you don't know nothing, you know, we're supposed to know something.
Some things they can't share, no worries.
Yeah, and I know Chief has done a good job of providing us all with an update if there's a large or major event. So I haven't been made aware of any events, or if I happen, I will share that information with you all.
Okay, just like we said, when there was, when they were doing work on the manholes in the street for the water thing, just send out an email, watch such and such a street, because they're fixing a water main or whatever, so that if we're talking to people, we can say, be careful, don't go out, but they're fixing water.
Any other comments?
You can see everything you can over the
I'm gonna have a final roll call, because we don't have any absent members. City Clerk, you wanna go?
Councilmember Clark,
Are we
Motion
moving
to
to
adjourn.
We got a motion.
support?
Councilmember Clark. Reed. Jackson.
Yes.
Lawler.
Yes.
Lanu.
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
And Mayor Smith.
Yes, meeting adjourned, 9:55 p.m.
All right, so you got everything you need, great?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.